So let's take a peek at our next Bhava Yoga. Today we're looking at the second lord in the 7th house. Now, Parashara, the ancient Rishi Parashara, tells us in his... Here we have the wealth lord abiding in the 7th. It's funny they use a word like Dharma, Bhava, for the 6th, but he just says the 7th. But numerology is big in Vedic, so the wealth lord, the second lord, abiding in the 7th house. One born is fond of others as wives and a healer. And if a papa, a malefic, aspects or joins, then the spouse goes astray. So this is, that's an interesting predicament, is it not? We have someone, already I can kind of see the themes of, again, the second lord, as we've been talking about in this series, really has a lot to do with childhood. It can have to do with childhood trauma, the feeling that we were loved enough in childhood, and also the feeling that we had enough. The second house relates to Taurus and to resources, and to having enough. The Karaka for the second house is Jupiter. It's abundance. It's the feeling that things are easily coming to us. And there's a faith involved there. So when the second lord is messed up, it can have this lack of faith and lack of abundance and lack of beauty and feeling like I'm not beautiful or worthy. And so when the second lord is in the 7th, the person, regardless, they probably feel in that 7th house a fondness of everybody, of every moving being, the type of love that they can experience with people. They feel it probably deeply. It's interesting that the healer aspect is in this, The second house can relate to bodily health, and the 7th is an interesting Western picture of the esoteric knowledge of everything a person is. So to sense in themselves and in other people what these people need to be healthy, that's an interesting indication from Parashara here. Now, it's also interesting that if a malefic, if a malefic aspects this second lord in the 7th, or if it joins it, then the spouse, which is something that would obviously be, here we have the second lord representing security, emotional, financial abundance and security. So this person probably experiences that through their spouse in a strong way, in their relationship. They're connecting their own rootedness of emotions and self-worth and self-value into their relationship, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially if this is well placed. The relationship becomes a great anchor for one's worth. When a malefic is here, it's unfortunate the spouse probably has the same, we tend to reflect, our partners tend to reflect what we have in the 7th house. So if we're this lusty person, then we're probably going to get a partner who's equally looking to ground themselves in the relationship and to feel secure in their sexuality and their loveliness by being loved by other people, so that this person and their spouse can be flirty. And if a malefic is here, the spouse might go astray. That's, you can only read so much out of just one yoga like this. Your spouse isn't necessarily going to always be cheating on you just because you have this yoga, but it's something worth being aware of, that these kind of indications are made. And it's probably the most important thing to say with regards to this is that your unconscious tends to attract what you find. So whenever you have a yoga like this and you're worried about this kind of thing, especially with the second house, a great key, you can always deal with any trouble through the second lord in the second house, is therapy. Going and talking with a therapist and saying, this is what happened to me with my parents. They either split or they didn't split. If they did split, abandonment. I need to fill this up through the 7th house. Or if they stayed together, they might have had tension between each other, and it felt difficult for me to see that tension. And even if your parents were perfect and everything was juicy jolly, the second lord in the 7th house has a lot of energy going through the 7th house, Venus, affection from other people, puberty, the area and age of puberty. Venus is the karka of the 2nd house. So Venus-related things are going to be a part of this person's basic sense of stability and self-worth. Especially if the Venus is trash in the chart, and if the 7th lord is not doing well. These are the kind of things we can expect of an affliction that will really bring out this jealousy and the spouse not sure if they're staying or going kind of thing. You got to really look at all the chart, because really the 9th house is more the house of marriage, bring people together for reasons beyond their enjoyment of each other. So if you got a good 9th house, you might feel each other not always liking each other, but you can still love each other at the soul level, living for deeper purposes than the ooey gooey kissy kissy. So afflictions from the 2nd lord in the 7th house might make you feel kind of about your feeling like I've got a good partner, or they feel secure with me. These kinds of experiences can happen. If that is the case, go to a therapist, check out what happened to you when you were younger, how your childhood went, how your childhood education went, and that should help to relieve and help you realize the nature that's causing you to attract this similar vibration in all your relationships, and even in a special marriage relationship that actually works, right? Even when you're in a good marriage relationship, that therapy stuff can still be very useful to ungunk. Even if you got the perfect partner, you will be made more comfortable if you figure your shit out. Most times when we're dealing with astrology, people come to the astrologer and say, hey, can we do a comparison chart? Can you show me my partner's chart and then mine, and then help me to know why I hate them so much? It's like, no, it's okay. I just need to look at your chart. So, as usual, when we are going through this stuff, we're going to look at The Art and Science of Vedic Astrology, Volume 2 by Ryan Kirksack and Richard Fish. These guys in this book, they go through the Bhava yogas in great detail. They usually will describe positive influences and negative influences. So most people are going to have a mix of both, right? If you got the 2nd lord in the 7th house, it can be very well placed, and it can all be positive, which means you're probably only going to need to hear the positive part, but you should listen to the negative stuff anyway, because they're completely flipped, right? One part, it'll say this person earns well through business partnerships. Then the other one will say that business partnerships can ruin this person. They're completely different. So you should listen to both and see where the good indications are indicating what you should be expecting to positively make out of this yoga, and the negative indications show what you got to kind of look out for. And if you got any afflictions here, if your 7th lord is not well placed, if the 2nd lord is not in a good sign in the 7th, I've been thinking about examples all day. Let's say you've got Sagittarius would have Saturn as the 2nd lord in Gemini, that'd be okay. 1st lord, let's see, Pisces would have Mars on the 2nd house. That's a good one. So Pisces rising, Mars rules the 2nd house, Aries, and Mars in the 7th house is in the sign of Virgo, and Mercury is an enemy to Mars, so Virgo kind of starves Mars. So this would be a starved 2nd lord in the 7th house. If it's conjunct Saturn, if it's got aspects from its enemies, Mercury is the main enemy to Mars. But if it's combusted by the sun, all this stuff can make difficulty for that 2nd lord in the 7th house. So if there's all sorts of afflictions, be aware. And keep your eyes out, especially for the indications that are negative. But first, let's start with the positive indications. the wealth lord falling in the 7th house. So the positive indications are that this person earns well through making business partnerships. Makes sense. Second lord earns well through business partnerships in the 7th. 7th isn't just marriage relationships. Marriage is really a 9th house thing. 7th is like your intimacy with people, your capacity to enjoy doing fun things with people, and business is a big part of it. Again, this business stuff is going to be, it's going to be important for you to have a good Jupiter, which is the karaka of the 2nd house, and Venus, which is a karaka of the 7th house. Venus and Jupiter are necessary for this yoga to work out well. So even if it's got good second lord in the 7th house and everything seems peachy, if your Venus and Jupiter are trashed, you're not going to make the most out of this yoga. This person earns money through understanding relationship dynamics. It can be knowing how I am, how you are, and how Billy is, and how Teresa is, and how all 4 of us come together. I can interweave us all in the right way so that this person does the banking, this person does the outflow, this person organizes the employees, this person does this, has the international eye and branding. The 2nd house and the 7th person can use everyone, use the resources, their human resources, to their best potential. This person earns through foreign lands or foreign connections. That's earning 2nd house through the 7th house, which is the furthest from the 1st house. Foreign, right? This person supports their partner financially. Ideally, if there's no affliction here, then this is just them having that extra money to help their partner do what their partner's going to do. This person's good at mediating, sort of being a diplomatic person between business contacts, making businesses smoothed out. They encourage others. This is an encouraging personality. The voice through the 2nd house. When this is really well done, the 2nd house has a person who can be encouraging, who has faith in the abundance that's available in life, and encourages others to vibe to that, which can be radiant and magnetizing. This person handles financial matters in partnerships, especially when it comes to their own 2nd house, their own wealth in the matter. They speak well of other people. 2nd house speaking through the 7th house of just talking about other people, just to rev everybody's engine, to make everything flow smoothly for business sake. They might have had an early childhood in foreign lands. Early childhood, 2nd house. 7th house is those foreign lands, just something outside of your normal culture, of the culture of your family, your typical family. You might have had lots of experience being away from what is typical. And this person works in courts. 7th house can be a law thing, and again, the 2nd house is like, this is a thing that this person does for their basic gig, their occupation, their job, the thing they make money with, right? The 10th house is more of like a craft, a profession, a thing that you've honed into to really love doing for its own sake and getting better at. The 2nd house is like the wheel. It's the gerbil wheel. It's what keeps us all going, So these are things that can be expected from the positive dimension of this placement. Now, the negative influences that can be expected here, they're painted pretty clear. One of them is that with the 2nd lord in the 7th house, the partner's sexual needs are greater than the natives. So sexual needs, 2nd house things, you might feel like I'm not getting enough to this person, or this person's not getting enough from me. The 2nd house can be a stable aspect of our emotional and erotic, relates to Venus, so this is the 2nd house feeling like we are erotically stable, like we have an emotional relationship that is erotically and sexually fulfilling, or that you can just feel that way in yourself. Not everybody even needs to have a partner, but if whether you feel that or not is conveyed here through this affliction of the 2nd lord in the 7th house. Your partner's sexual needs are greater than your own, and this can feel frustrating probably to both. Sometimes this is something that you just need to talk to the partner about and communicate with them about. You know, you don't necessarily need to feel like, oh, something happened with my childhood, so I'm not giving enough to my partner. Sometimes it just needs to be communicated. The partner tends to live off your good fortune, and at the expense of their own. You know, you might even be enabling them. You know, you might be lascivious, too loose with your boundaries on your own financial pocket. But this might just be part of who you are. But that kind of thing can happen. You might be subject to alimony, right? Money coming in with partners that you've made and then gone, and connections still remain that are, you know, like this thing can be almost parasitic in a way, where you just get completely drained by all the connections you've made with people and then left. But part of that might be because you've got too much passion going into the enjoyment of the 7th house and not really thinking about, what am I going to do with my 2nd house? What am I doing with my own personal financial future? Thinking about my own best interests in the long run. You get it all entangled with a person in the 7th house and just, here, have it all, or you get very passionate about it and you lose yourself in it, right? The partner can have psychological or emotional difficulties. It's that afflicted 2nd lord in the 7th house. Again, this is reflective of the partner especially. But again, if a partner has these things, you might want to look in yourself why you're attracting them, right? A lot of the stuff that we see happening in the 7th house comes to our own stuff, especially with the 2nd lord here. You got to look at your own stuff in the past, your childhood, parents, etc., to see why partners who can sense this, who want to work out this karma with you, are coming to you. And working out that karma with them, sometimes it's love. You might have this gunked up 2nd lord in the 7th house, and you meet people and it feels like they're draining, and it's this, everyone you find is just this hard thing. That might be the love that is meant for you in this incarnation. It's all Krishna. The better thing to do is to just digest for yourself what you're getting and do your own therapy work, because it's probably something in you that is not making your relationships work. The partner may feel needy, or you may feel you're needy in your partnership. There's problems with finances and foreigners or in foreign lands. When you're in foreign lands, something might have happened that might cause some difficulty with the culture, or things that have got you tied up that block your financial acuity where you are in your homeland. This person supports mistresses, projects financial problems onto others, lacking 2nd house in the 7th house. It's because of you, it's because of you, it's because of all you people that my 2nd house, my childhood, was lacking. This kind of attitude can happen. Difficulty breaking ties with bad relationships. The 2nd house becomes very dependent on the 7th. Prone to seeking satisfaction outside of committed relationships. And this can turn on you and towards your partners as well. So this can be a tricky one when afflictions are here. But again, all the things end up being things that are probably coming from your childhood that you didn't work out, right? So think about it, digest it. You know, there's always a lot with each of these yogas. There's a lot to think about, right? Now, the example I have here, I thought this was an interesting one. Bruno Mars, for whom Mars is his 2nd lord. Again, here's another funny example where maybe this is why I'm thinking about these, but we got Pisces rising, and the 2nd lord is in the 7th house. Now, this Mars is with Venus. So Venus is actually a benefic. So Venus is making things in this house go a little bit easier. But still, Mars is starved. You know, and this is a debilitated Venus, too. So debilitated Venus is not going to be able to be as radiant and healthy, and it won't be able to help this Mars as much as a typical Venus. Now, Mars is starved by Mercury. So this debilitated Venus can only help this starved Mars so much. So this is a person who can have some of the afflictions that we've talked about. It depends, you know. He's also got some interesting stuff happening in the 9th house. So I'm not here to air out anybody's laundry. You know, he seems like he's doing well and being successful for himself. You know, we have the second lord with this benefic Venus for Bruno Mars. Maybe this signifies something about his capacity to do the right business deals with the right people. But we'd have to look at the whole chart. You know, I just wanted to show an example of what the 2nd and the 7th kind of looks like. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Take care.